Rankin & Bass's 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special has received many changes throughout its broadcasting run among 3 different networks. The original special initially aired on NBC on December 6, 1964 as part of the General Electric Fantasy Hour. Now, the special we see today on home video releases stays pretty faithful to the originally aired version from 1964. However, there were some alterations. There's a scene in the special where Rudolph and company talk to King Moonrazer and promises that they'll tell Santa about the island of misfit toys. However, we never see the island again after that. Instead, as Santa's riding through the night, the elf that pops out of the bag is shown throwing presents with the names of the people who worked on the film. We never see Santa and the reindeer go to the island of misfit toys. Earlier on, Santa does say first stop the island of misfit toys. It's not known if that shot was part of the original special or was added later. I assume it's part of the original special from back when it aired, and if so, maybe they were just heading out to the island during the credits and picked up the misfit toys off screen. Well, either way, kids wanted to actually see Santa and Rudolph fulfill their promise, and wrote letters to the network demanding to see it on screen. So a year later, in 1965, they added a new ending to meet the popular demand, and as a result, the special had to cut some content in order to fit the new ending. This is where I explain all the changes, well, almost all the changes that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had on TV since then. Hopefully you enjoyed this 60th anniversary edition of a popular video I made last year, and hopefully this time Universal doesn't take it down. Anyways, let's start off with what changes were made in 1965. The song We Are Santa's Elves was cut short. Basically, the footage that was cut had shots of Santa and Mrs. Claus's reactions to hearing the song, then there's an instrumental break with the elves playing instruments while the foreman is struggling to conduct, and finally, a reprise of the special Jolly Cheer verse where Hank the Tall Elf gets sacked. Now, as someone who unironically enjoys the song, it's sad that the song had to be super short. Some of my earliest memories of the special was watching it on VHS at my Meemaw's old house, as well as showings of the DVD at school, so I knew how the song was supposed to be played. While I didn't own any copies of the film until years later, I had a recording of the special on CBS, and I always felt a little unsatisfied hearing the shortened version of We Are Santa's Elves every time I watched it on CBS. Though what's even more interesting is that the song We're a Couple of Misfits was replaced entirely with a new originally animated song sequence called Fame and Fortune.
Fame and fortune, we're off to seek them now. Anyone can have them both, it just takes the right know-how. We put on our traveling shoes today.
We won't stop until we find the way.
Till fame and fortune, fame and fortune, fame will be ours someday. Fame and fortune, fame will be ours someday.
I get they needed a shorter song due to time constraints with a new ending, and not to mention that it's not a bad song by any means, but I honestly would have preferred a shortened version of the original Misfits song, especially since the Misfits song was much better in terms of the context of the story. Rudolph and Hermie accepted their misfits and embraced their uniqueness. They never wanted to be famous or seek out fortune. I feel like the song would have fit better with Yukon Cornelius' character. Also, as a result of adding the Fame and Fortune sequence, a piece of Sam's narration was cut to make room for the full song. Here's the dialogue that was cut in the 1965 version.
Now, these two didn't have any idea about what they were letting themselves in for. The world looked a lot more complicated and dangerous than it seemed when they were snug and warm at home. Now, these two didn't have any idea about what they were letting themselves in for. The world looked a lot more complicated and dangerous.
Speaking of Yukon, there was a character arc for Yukon Cornelius that had him searching for valuable minerals that he thought were silver and gold. He would occasionally lick his pickaxe and see if he could taste the silver and gold, to which is just nothing. At first, we're just meant to believe that Yukon Cornelius is some kind of weirdo who thinks he can taste silver and gold. However, near the end of the film where Rudolph and Santa go out to the island of misfit toys, there was a scene that was cut that ended his arc. Here's footage that was also cut from the 1965 version.
He'll be a hero after this. Yes, a hero.
That's my boy. Now, you see how it's done? Wahoo! Peppermint! What I've been searching for all my life! I've struck it rich! I've got me a peppermint mine! Wahoo!
The problem with cutting this scene out is that without that particular scene, audiences just thought he was just some weirdo trying to find silver by tasting his pickaxe and getting unlucky. This whole time, he thought he was trying to taste silver and gold and turned out to be peppermint. He says he's been searching it his whole life, which means because he's been searching it for his whole life, he forgot what he was trying to find because of how long he's been searching for it. But when he finally tasted the peppermint in the end, he finally started to remember what he was truly looking for. He was trying to taste the peppermint. I mean, they could have cutted any unimportant scene from the special, but no, they decided to cut a scene out where a character actually achieved their main goal. So what about the new ending? The original ending had the elf throwing presents with the names of the people that worked on the special. The only footage that exists right now is this low quality black and white footage. However, Rankin and Bass historian Rick Goldschmidt claimed to own a copy of the original ending in full color. He's tried contacting NBC Universal to see if they could put it on the next home video release, and he was going to feature the footage in a Rankin and Bass documentary that ultimately went unreleased due to lack of funding and permission from NBC Universal. Honestly, I don't know what's stopping Rick from releasing it on YouTube or Internet Archive, but I digress. However, when the ending was changed in 1965, instead of seeing Sam the Snowman waving goodbye to the sleigh, we got a completely new scene showing the Misfit Toys believing that they were forgotten. It could be a reference to the fan demand that I mentioned earlier, but I digress. Anyways, they see Rudolph's glowing nose lighting up the sky, and Santa's sleigh arrives to deliver the Misfit Toys.
Well, let's be on our way. Ready, Rudolph?
Ready, Santa?
Okay, Rudolph, full power. Up, and away!
They then take off, and we're cut back to the original footage with Sam waving goodbye to the sleigh. The credits were mostly reanimated and have the elf throwing the Misfit Toys down instead, with the credits being displayed on screen instead of on the presents. It's interesting how they misspelled Billy Richards' name despite the fact that it wasn't the case in the original credits. Oh, and for those who are wondering, no, the elf does not kill the bird. Yes, the bird couldn't fly, but you could clearly see the bird fluing out on the bag by himself. The elf did not push him. Producer Arthur Rankin Jr. has even confirmed that the bird did learn how to fly by that point, so he was not harmed like many have said. Audio-wise, the whooshing sound from the original audio was removed in the 1965 version, and oddly enough, the audio where Santa shouts out Merry Christmas uses a different take. I thought the first one they did was great. This one is just way too loud and high-pitched sounding.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
It might just be me, but something about the retake creeps me out. I can be very sound sensitive at times, I am autistic after all, so maybe it's just me thinking this, and rather just prefers the original audio. This was the version of Rudolph that had been airing since 1965, and throughout the decades, we would see some minor or one-off changes. On Wikipedia, the 1998 to 2004 broadcast version of the special mentions that the Rankin and Bass Presents was added at the beginning to reflect the company's name change. However, that text was there as early as the 80s from TV recordings and official VHS releases. In fact, if you go on YouTube, there's a public domain upload of the special that does not have the text. Rankin and Bass Productions was originally founded as Videocraft International. It wasn't until 1968 when they changed the company's name to Rankin and Bass. Because of this fact, I speculate that the Rankin and Bass Presents text in the beginning was added sometime after 1968. NBC would keep airing Rudolph annually until 1972 when reruns moved to CBS. However, despite this, the special still used the 1965 version, and the scenes that were cut did not return. Also, at some point in the 70s and 80s, the We Are Santa's Elf sequence was cut entirely, and instead poorly cuts from Sam's narration to Hermie playing with the dolls. At least that's how it was in the 1984 recording I found on YouTube. Also, the scene where Donner leaves his wife to go look for Rudolph was apparently cut, though since the source of this claim no longer exists, it's unknown whether or not it was actually cut or not. It was also at this point where the movie started being sped up to make room for commercial time. The master tape of the special was also starting to show its age throughout the decades. such as the Rankin Bass Presents shot being a brownish color, as well as the transition from Sam to the opening credits starting off a little brown until it reverts back to its proper colors. This was also the case for later broadcast versions of the special, as well as the old DVD releases. Not only that, but the special was also slightly high-pitched at some point in the 90s. If you find any 90s TV recordings of Rudolph online, for some reason they're in a much higher pitch. I don't know why this happened, especially since the official VHS releases of the film don't have that issue. Fortunately, things were about to get good for the special, both for TV and on home media. In 1993, the original We're a Couple of Misfits song was rediscovered and was restored for a few years. 1998 would go down in history for the special when Golden Books Family Entertainment released Rudolph on VHS, but instead of using the 1965 version like the previous releases, they added all the scenes that were previously cut back into the special. This includes the full We Are Santa's Elf song, the return of We're a Couple of Misfits, Sam's additional dialogue from after said song, and finally, the infamous Peppermint Mine scene. Despite the 1965 ending still being present, the audio from the original ending is used in place, including the whooshing sounds, as well as the original take of Santa shouting Merry Christmas. The Rankin Bass Presents text was also restored to its original colors. The special looked so much better than ever before, so surely CBS would start airing that version instead. Well, yes, but actually no. Yes, because they did use the same restored master, as evident by its video quality. It also brought back the full We Are Santa's Elf song and the We're a Couple of Misfits song, for the first time on television since the original 1964 airing, which happened 34 years ago at the time. Same applies for Sam's additional dialogue and the original ending's audio. However, the Peppermint Mine scene was still not present in this version. It's crazy that it was the only scene to still get cut on CBS. Despite a few hiccups like the Peppermint Mine scene being cut, this was a big step in the right direction. Sadly, this version of the special didn't last even a decade. In 2005, CBS was starting to air a newly restored HD version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which sounded fantastic on paper, but in execution, well, I mean, the video quality looks great, and the colors look a lot better than even the old classic media Blu-ray releases. However, the 2005 CBS version suffers the same problems as the 1965 version, but much worse. For one thing, the original scenes that were brought back in the 1998 CBS version were cut again. We Are Santa's Elves is shortened again, Fame and Fortune return, however the audio is from a poorly edited We're a Couple of Misfits, and it's just awful. This version also suffers from audio errors and warping. Silver and Gold had an audio clip where Santa started singing Everyone Wishes for Silver and Gold. The Everyone was clipped, so now it sounds like Vree-one.
Everyone wishes for silver and gold. Everyone wishes for silver and gold.
There was another audio clip near the end where Sam says, well, as good as everyone feels. Good is the word that was clipped, though it doesn't sound quite as bad as Everyone from Silver and Gold.
Well, as good as everyone feels. Well, as good as everyone feels.
In addition to these two audio clips, the chirping sounds from the birds from There's Always Tomorrow are mute for no apparent reason. Throughout the special, the audio occasionally warps. It feels more noticeable with the songs like Silver and Gold and Have a Holly Jolly Christmas. The Peppermint Mine scene is still cut, but Sam's additional dialogue and the original ending's audio still remains. I'm surprised that CBS was able to get away with showing such a disastrous version of Rudolph for 18 years, which is a shame because visually it looks really good. The colors stay true to the original, no green Yukon like on the 2007 to 2013 home video releases, and the overall special looked a lot sharper and vibrant. It's sad that all these edits and audio issues had to ruin what otherwise would have been a great version of Rudolph to air.
Oh no, the salt truck! No! Ah! It burns! It burns! My blood is on your hands, CBS! Ah!
In 2019, Freeform acquired broadcasting rights for both Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman. Since then, they have been aired regularly during their annual 25 Days of Christmas lineup. Considering that Freeform had just lost the license to the Warner Bros. Owned Rankin & Bass specials at the time, having the Universal owned one seemed like a big win for them. However, back when it was announced, I was curious what the special was going to look like. Will they use the same 2005 master from CBS, or will they actually air a version from one of the home video releases? To my surprise and relief, Freeform uses a print from Universal's 2018 Deluxe Edition. We Are Santa's Elves and We're a Couple of Misfits have their full songs intact. No footage from Fame and Fortune, no weird cuts. This was exactly the way it was meant to be. So far, Freeform's airings of the special seem to be exactly like the 2018 Universal release, both visually and content-wise. Though there's still the Peppermint Mine scene. Even when CBS brought back the cut stuff in 1998, the Peppermint Mine scene was still nowhere to be found. Well, for the first time since its initial 1964 broadcast, which was 55 years mind you, Yukon Cornelius finally found his peppermint mine again on TV. Yes, finally, a good broadcast version of Rudolph to air, and I'm glad they're using a home video release rather than CBS's heavily edited version. While the 2018 Universal release wasn't the best, it was a huge improvement over the previous Blu-rays that were released by DreamWorks and Classic Media. There is one peculiar edit that had me scratching my head. For Freeform's airings, the 5.1 audio is from the old Classic Media Blu-ray releases instead of Universal's. This is evident by the fact that in the Silver and Gold song, the word "for" and "Everyone Wishes for Silver and Gold" was cut out.
Everyone wishes for silver and gold. Everyone wishes silver and gold.
This causes the rest of the special to be off sync as a result, which is very odd considering that the deluxe DVDs and Blu-rays have the correct audio, which the Freeform print is based on. And while the 2018 Deluxe Edition did attempt to fix some of the blue coloring that was shown green on previous Blu-rays, there's still some green remaining, like in the first shot of the Misfit Cowboy and in some shots the elves in the climax. At least Yukon Cornelius' clothes are no longer green, even if the dark blue they use isn't as accurate. Another issue with the deluxe print is in the shot where Santa leaps down the Misfit toys, where there's an immediate jump cut in the last few frames. Oh, and the deluxe edition suffers from DNR, so it looks a tad blurry. Another downside is that they don't play the ending in full, rather they play it on mute with a split screen. But either way, this is still the original full special. Now, I'm not sure if Freeform's airings of Rudolph have changed since then. Since the 4K remaster came out not too long ago, I wonder if they'll eventually start using that version instead. Regardless, Freeform's airings of the film prove that you could still have Rudolph in its hour time slot without having to sacrifice most of its content for commercials. For 51 years, CBS has aired Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer annually during the holiday season after its original 7-year run on NBC. 2023 would be the final time that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, and Frosty Returns would air on CBS. Starting in 2024 for the film's 60th anniversary, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer would return to NBC for the first time since 1971. Meanwhile, Frosty the Snowman, which had been on CBS since the special's beginning, will also debut on NBC as well. Frosty Returns, on the other hand, won't be returning anytime soon. This news wasn't too surprising since Rudolph and Frosty are owned by NBC Universal after all, but once again, I digress. On December 6, 2024, 60 years after the film's big premiere, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer aired on NBC for the first time in 53 years. And instead of being on an hour time slot like on CBS and Freeform, NBC has aired the movie on a 75-minute time slot. Unfortunately, I had no access to NBC, so I went on YouTube TV to do a 20-minute preview, around the time the movie was airing, so I was able to check out the re-premiere of Rudolph, just not in its entirety. As far as I'm concerned, it looks like NBC's print for Rudolph uses a mix between the 2018 Deluxe Edition and the 2022 4K release. I'd say this because some of the footage looks like it was taken from the 4K print, such as Cornelius and the Cowboys' clothes being the proper blue color, while most of it looks like it came from the deluxe print, such as the elves being green in certain shots in the climax, as well as the jump cut sleigh era remaining. Besides a few extra fade-in transitions for commercials, the movie itself is uncut. No songs are shortened, all scenes are intact, including the scene where Cornelius finds his peppermint mine, once again. But the biggest flaw is that just like Freeform's airings, NBC's airing used Classic Media's old 5.1 audio track instead of Universal's superior 5.1 track, which means that the word "for" and "Everyone Wishes for Silver and Gold" is still missing, and the dialogue is still a bit off sync as a result of this. I guess this isn't too surprising in hindsight. The digital releases of the 4K prints seem to suffer from that same problem, despite it being correct on the actual discs. Overall, NBC did a decent job airing Rudolph on modern TV, aside from its dreaded commercial breaks. Even with all its hiccups, their version of Rudolph still manages to be a million, no, billion times better than anything CBS has ever done. As of 2024, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is currently still being broadcasted on both Freeform and now NBC. The movie itself needs no introduction, and it's regarded as a Christmas classic for good reasons. However, if you're going to watch Rudolph the right way this Christmas, NBC is your best bet in terms of live TV, since they pretty much air the special uncut with no split screening. though in my opinion, you're way better off buying either the 4K release of Rudolph or the Blu-ray release of the complete Rankin & Bass Christmas collection, since they both use the superior 2022 4K print in its entirety. Will NBC and Freeform use the 4K prints in the future? Only time will tell. And as always, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you are subscribed to the channel, make sure to ring the notification bell so you won't miss out on any videos I produce. I'll see you real soon, and happy 60th anniversary!
Thank you.